Okay, so I just received a dressing down by an old friend, and I heard it. I completely disagree with it, um, but I want to share it, and this may get me in more trouble. But at this point, I am done allowing people to silence my part of the story, i.e., sharing what I experienced from interactions with them. And that's pretty much all my writing and all my sharing is about, is how I'm growing and how I'm learning through interactions with other human beings. And so today's situation or conversation or set down or downgrade or whatever, whatever it ends up being, was by someone I met in 1999 on the job. I was in an internship. She was a temp at the job. And we have considered ourselves to be friends since 1999. So you do the math. I'm counting 22 years or something like that. And today she essentially told me that I have not been a good friend, and that I do not support her, and that there is no way she would treat me the way that I treat her. And so the issue at hand is, after 22 years of friendship, my transgressions against her happened yesterday, a week ago, and something she brought up from 12 years ago. So these three things were her condemnations against me today that basically put me in I'm messy, and I'm not a good friend, and I'm not supportive, based on three interactions that literally, two of which just happened within the last week out of 22 years, and one which she did not appropriately, and admittedly so, convey her upset about 12 years ago. Woosah. So let me just preface this by saying that the last 15, 16, close to 20 years of my life has been all about weeding out relationships that do me no good. And throughout the process of that weeding, I've become very friendless, almost family-less, and very much an individual on her own in the world. And over the last 5 years or so, I've come to accept that solitary solitude and singleness in my life, right? And as a matter of fact, just this last weekend, I gave thanks for the first time for the singleness that God has blessed me with, because I now see it as a blessing. And that will be another story. I'll talk about, how being single and being pretty much shored up by God in my singleness has blessed me in my life. Okay, that's another conversation, video, blog, whatever. But to this friend's point, I wrote a book that I published in 2009, titled "My God and Me: Listening, Learning, and Growing on My Journey." And in that book, the whole book was about my interpersonal relationships and what I learned from them. So there was no pretext, there was no deceit, there was no misguidance about what I was writing about. And everybody I talked to about that book knew that they were going to be in that book. I asked people if they wanted to pre-read it. These were people I considered to be my good friends. Pretty much people I consider to be my good friends. My family, we weren't necessarily talking, so they probably weren't invited to read it. But my friends, I certainly invited to pre-read and to offer any comments before I publish. I will tell you, not one agreed to read it, not one wanted to read it, not one cared enough about my story to read what I had to write about my story in connection to my relationship with them. So that's the premise, that's ground one. So at the time, after it published, now I was writing this book for 2 years, mind you, 2 years, talking about it for 2 years before I published it, even shared snippets with the friends. Hey, I wrote about X, Y, and Z. Hey, that situation, I wrote about, this situation that we went through, or that we talked about, or that you experienced, or how it impacted me, right? I shared those things before I published. When I published, these people then read the book and lambasted me. At least, I don't know how many, but at least the people I considered myself to be closest to at the time completely changed the script. They switched up. Some talked about it, some did not talk about it. at least two people. One, I was renting from her at the time in Harlem. She said, I will never look at you the same for sharing the things that you shared. And I didn't understand it. And honestly, listen, I understand it now. I would do it differently now. But I didn't understand it then. Because my point of view was, listen, I'm asking you guys for your opinions on the things that I'm writing about on how we are connected. Please give me your opinion. That was that's on them that they didn't read it, right? So it went into publication without them reading. A few people had issues, some, sat on it. This particular friend who I had a conversation with today, she said that she did have a conversation with me, but she wasn't willing to lose me as a friend because I told her that I've already lost friends over this, so what's one more? I guess that was my frustration at that point by the time she talked to me. So, but at the same time, I said, well, there were people who told me that they absolutely did not want to be in a book and asked me to remove them, and I said about editing out them in the next round. I said, you never made it clear that this was such an issue to you that you did not want to be mentioned. I said, had you done that, I would have edited you out too. Just plain and simple. That's what I said today. I said, so you're bringing up something from 12 years ago that was published 12 years ago that you literally had access to before publication. And you're telling me that basically this is something you've been holding a grudge against me all these years. And that makes me not a good friend. Okay, whatever. I'm not going to get into the argument right now. I'm just, that's not where I'm at. So the other item was that, all she talks about basically for the last 14 years is her ex. They've been separated for 14 years, or separated, done, broke up, whatever you call it. 14 years, they have 2 kids. Her 2 kids are my god kids. Her oldest is now living with the father, whom she says she doesn't talk to, and whom she's never had a decent relationship since they broke up. I reached out to my godson when I got here to Milwaukee because he's living with his father, who has been in construction for over 20 years. I bought a property to rehab. I reached out to another friend and her husband, who has also been in construction for all his life. He worked with his father. And I asked that friend if she would ask her husband if he would look at this property with me. He came and looked at the property, but because this friend has such a contentious relationship with her ex, I asked my godson, who is of age, he's 19, asked my godson if he could ask his father if I could talk to him about any contacts he has in construction. Because again, I'm not new to Milwaukee, but I'm new to Milwaukee. I just moved back here after 16 years away. I bought an investment property. I have no contacts. In my mind, this shouldn't be an issue. But in her mind, and I admit it to her, I said, obviously we see things differently. We see everything differently. And in her mind, I should have gone through her. And I said, why would I ask you to connect me to somebody you don't want to talk to? To me, that makes less sense than what you're saying. What I actually did, which was to reach out through the son and say, hey, can you ask your dad if I can talk to him about construction? And so in her mind, the way she's reading this back to me is, if you want something to do with my ex, that's fine, but you can't have anything to do with me. I said, you're reading this as if I'm trying to get with your ex, whatever. I said, this has nothing to do with a personal relationship, has nothing to do with a desire for friendship or any other interaction other than trying to figure out how I can take care of myself and my business. I don't understand why you don't understand that. I'm not calling this man asking, hey, can we have drinks? Or, hey, can I pick your brain over dinner or something like that? I'm literally saying, hey, I just bought a property. I need help with this property. Do you have anywhere you can direct me? That was my total ask. It's not my fault, and maybe I was short-sighted, I admit that he didn't, first of all, he didn't call me. I left a voicemail, he didn't call back. My godson came back to me, and my godson said, hey, auntie, did dad ever get back to you? I said, no, he didn't, but that's okay. I'm good. By that time, it's like a month has passed. I said, I'm good. I don't need his help at this point. I'm making my own contacts. My godson says, no, well, I don't like the fact that he didn't get back to you because he should have got back to you. I said, just leave it alone. I'm good. I said, a lot of people haven't gotten back to me. I'm good with that. Well, my godson wasn't happy that his father basically ignored my request or ignored my call. So he, basically told his father, it's not cool that you didn't call Shonda back. Again, I've known these people for 20 plus years, right? And actually, the father and I went to high school together. Although we didn't have a friendship at the time, but I played basketball with his sister. So there's some history here. It's not like, I only had this one-dimensional relationship. So we have some, long history here on all sides. And so the father, once his son told him it wasn't cool that he just ignored my call and ignored my message and all this other stuff, called me up last week. This is almost 2 months after I called. Probably close to 3 months, but it was a couple months after I had called and left a voicemail. And he, said, hey, yeah, I got your voicemail, but honestly, I wasn't sure if you're spying for my ex, and I didn't want to be in the middle of this and blah, blah, blah. I said, I understand that that's probably what you thought. I get it. And I told my godson that's probably what you were thinking, so I wasn't sweating it. I said, but at the same time, that's a mischaracterization of me, because when have I ever run back and forth between you two? I've never done it. So why would I suddenly pop up in town and start doing it now? But be it as it may, I'm good. I'm making my own contacts. I'm fine, blah, blah, Skippy. He then proceeded to talk for 4.5 hours. Yes, I should have hung up, but I don't hang up on people. People talk. I'm a talker, you can tell. But he talked for 4.5 hours, so I don't call that a conversation. And of course, he talked about my friend, his ex. And I told him several times throughout that, because he got free-flowing. He said, oh, well, his son told him that we weren't talking. And I said, that's the first for me. I'm not aware that we're not talking. I said, so don't talk to me now if you're under the impression that I'm not talking to my friend. I said, because that's not my understanding. I said, I'm not here to co-sign with you on anything about her. I made that clear several times, and he kept on talking. So that's that. I end up popping up over seeing my friend for the first time since I've been back, because like I said, I've been steering clear of people for the most part. I went over to her house. She doesn't like pop-ups. That was another thing she snuck into the conversation. How are you just popping up? But mind you, she's been asking me since I've been here, when you coming by. It's just very contrary. Contrary is contrary, no matter how you look at it. So anyway, I popped up. She wasn't home. I'm chatting with her mom. Again, 20 years here. Chatting with her mom. And she calls. She's like, well, I'm on my way. I'm like, you don't even have to rush. I'm chilling with your mom. I'm good. But she rushes home anyway. We, hang out. We talk. I end up staying there till about midnight just talking with her, the kids, and her mom. And of course, the conversation gets to, well, I had brunch with Jade. I had brunch with her son. I had brunch with her son, and I had reached out to her ex. I told her, I reached out to your ex. I just laid it all out. This is why I called for. This is why I asked for it. He never got back to me. But when I was talking to your son, I asked him, well, when I was talking to your son, I let him know that XYZ. So I basically laid out the whole conversation. And no one's running back and telling on me about anything. I'm just telling her this is the conversations that happened since we haven't talked in the last month or so, right? And she's taking it cool. She's, going straight face. And then she wants to tell her side of the story. I know her side of the story. 20 years, y'all. I know everything she thinks about this man. And yes, in her mind, that should have kept me cross at him, whichever. But it's not my fight. And what I told her was, I did tell him that one of my regrets, and I told her son this too, because he's having problems with his friends, and his friends are trying to make him choose between them. And I said, one of my biggest regrets, I said I don't have many regrets, but one of my biggest regrets in this relationship triangle is that when your mom asked me to have nothing to do with your dad because she wanted nothing to do with him, then I just cut him off without a conversation to him, without a word to him. Like, I literally had not talked to this man since like 2007, 2008 when I called. So I get that he didn't call me back. I'm not even upset about that. And I told her that. It's like, whatever, here I am out the blue after, just dropping him all those years ago because she asked me to. I said, that's not my MO. I will have a conversation with people because I believe in relationships and interactions. I'm all about interpersonal relationships. And that doesn't mean intimacy. That doesn't mean we have to be deeply connected. That just means that we have to have a respect for other people as human beings. And that's who I am. And so I said, yeah, that's one of my regrets, is that I never had the conversation with your father, like, hey, I need to back off because, my girl isn't feeling so good about this, blah, 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 XYZ. And I'll add here that she connected me with him to do work for his business before they broke up. So there was already a business connection there also, I want to add. So that's one reason why I didn't feel like it was out of place to actually ask him for some contacts business-wise. So again, all these connections. So this was earlier this week. She takes it well, seemingly. But she calls today to tell me that, it woke her up out of her sleep. She felt some kind of way. She's scratching her head. She doesn't understand why I'm so messy. Why am I messy? Well, what's so messy? Well, why will you call my ex and this and that? I said, I told you. Like, I literally told you everything I did, everything I said, what he said, blah, blah, blah. And I told you before he even called me back, I was over it. I was not interested in talking to him about the business because I had already found contacts. But it's like she heard nothing of what I said. All she heard was that I'm reaching out to her ex, trying to build a relationship. And she can't have a friend who's reaching out to her ex, whom she doesn't want to have anything to do with, because that's just something she doesn't want in her life. I'm sitting here like, you making it sound like I'm trying to get with somebody. I'm not trying to get with nobody. And if I was, y'all have been not an item for 14 years. Like, how are you still this angry and hurtful? Or hurt, and I don't understand it. She knows I don't understand it, and I'm not trying to wrap my head around that type of pain. But what I do understand, and I told her, I said, listen, my whole life is about learning from my relationships, and I'm not trying to basically handle my relationships how you handle your relationships. It's not on me to perpetuate your same issues and interactions I have with people. So also yesterday we roll up in an ice cream spot. Her sister's there. She's not talking to her sister. I don't know she's not talking to her sister. But as her daughter is getting out the car, she's like, oh, there's auntie. And she starts to walk over. And my friend says, oh, well, we're having an awkward moment right now. And what am I supposed to do about an awkward moment? So I get out the car and I, wave to her sister. 20 years, y'all, I've known this. Like, it's just crazy. So I wave, and I'm thinking people are going to get out the car and go over and say hi to her sister. Her mother was in the car. Her niece was in the car. Her daughter was in the car. She was in the car. None of them went over and say hi to this woman, or even mentioned to her mom in the back seat, who didn't have her glasses on, that her daughter was across the way. The mother didn't see the daughter until I was coming back over, and she goes, oh my gosh, I didn't see her over there. And then she went over there and said hi. So I'm sitting here like, okay, so I can't speak to your sister because you're not speaking to your sister? Like, I haven't seen your sister in 16 years and I can't just go over there and say, hey girl, how you doing? Because you're not talking to her? Like, this is so grade school to me. I can't comprehend it. And I'm not trying to comprehend it. And so that was one of her beefs today. That was the incident yesterday that made me not a good friend because I spoke to her sister at an ice cream spot. How does this make sense? And I'm sitting here like, if this is the level that you have our friendship on, where it's dependent on who I speak to and who I don't speak to based on your feelings about that person, then count me out. You talking about count you out because I talked to somebody? Feel free to count me out, because I'm not doing grade school with you. I'm not doing grade school with anybody. And I didn't even get to the grievances I have. I have some legitimate grievances. Like, in my mind, they're legitimate. But I didn't even get to those because then she attacked the book. So she's in this book. I was going to show you the pages, but I won't because I don't want to identify her. But she doesn't like her pictures. And I actually put a cluster of her photos in here because I absolutely love the photos. I think they express character. I think they express strength. I think they express personality. And I actually paired all her images are paired with Michelle Obama and Kamala Harris. I won't tell you where they are in the book, but there are two speeches, one by Michelle Obama and one by Kamala Harris, and this friend is paired with those two women. Just to give you an idea of the esteem that I hold her in. She saw those pictures and said, I asked you to delete those. I'm looking through your book and all I see is my pain. How dare you disregard my wishes and put my pictures, the pictures that I told you I didn't like, in your book. You can put pictures that I like in your book, but you can't put pictures that I don't like in your book. And I said, wait, I said, first of all, I didn't ask anyone's permission, first of all, on which pictures are going in my book. I said, this whole book is a photo essay, and it tells the story of womanhood, black womanhood in America. I said, so your photo tells a story, the words next to your photo tells a story, and it all flows together. This is what I told her. I said, but if you don't like the pictures that I have in the book of you, I will take them out. I said, I will make that promise to you right now. This is like less than an hour ago. I will make that promise to you right now. I will remove those pictures and you won't be in the book and you don't have to worry about it. And a slight backtrack. Well, if you can put a picture in there that I like. No, this isn't about you. This isn't something you're going to control right here. This is my project. This is me. This is my story. This is what I want to share about black women in America expressing themselves. Thank you for expressing yourself. I hear you. I respect you. I will remove the pictures that you don't like in my book, but that's it. You're not going to be in it. You don't get to go through my catalog of artistic images and tell me what I can and can't do in my work. You can do that in your house. You can do that with your ex, and that's probably why y'all still have this contentious relationship, but you can't do it with me. But at that point, I sort of, my voice choked up. I was ready to cry. Because honestly, I said, we obviously see things differently. Because I don't see your pain when I look at these pictures. She said all she sees is her pain. And it hurts my heart that that's all she sees in herself is her pain. And I guess this is where I wanted to go. Because until that moment, I don't think I truly understood how deeply self-loathing she is. How deeply she hates who she is, or where she's at, or what her life has come to. So, hear this message, but also hear that I'm not angry with her. I certainly don't expect her to see or hear my point of view because she never has. She's never seen or heard anything other than her own point of view. And that's been the point of contention with all her relationships. But I'm deeply saddened that something that I told her, I said, this whole book is about respecting black women. And your read on it is that I'm disrespecting you by having you in it. Like, what type of sense and what type of world does that make sense? I can't make it make sense. Like, this is truly a celebration of black womanhood. This book right here, black womanhood. Not many women in this book have more than one picture. She has about 3 or 4 because she's been a big part of my life. Her kids have been a big part of my heart. She was one of the women I paid tribute to. And her thing is, all I see is my pain. And I don't want anybody to see that. And I'm sitting here like, I don't even see your pain. I just see strength. I see character. I see a woman. I just see a woman being herself. That's it. How do you see yourself? And let me get this straight. Her reaction to this is not something that I'm taking personally, or something I'm trying not to take personally. I mean, the attack on my work, yes, I'm gonna take that personally. But at the same time, I know overall she's basically she has tried to control every single aspect of everybody connected to her life for as long as I've known her. And that's been a struggle that I've struggled in interacting with her, and just trying to find grace for her in our interactions. And I think I'm at the point now where I'm like, I'm done. Like, I've been done for a while. But I think, some relationships die these slow deaths, and that's something I was talking about in my Gotomy. Some, the relationships ebb and flow. Some die quickly and some die slowly. Like, you just hold on hoping they'll revive themselves. And my relationship with her was one that I hope will revive itself, primarily because I dearly love her children. I dearly love her children. And she knows that. And I think that, I know for a fact she's tried to control that ex with her children. She's tried to control me with her children. You know, what type of access I have, what type of conversations I can have with them. And that's why, yes, her son is 19 now. I can talk directly to him. I don't have to call her first to have a conversation with my godson, blah, blah, Skippy. And we can just speak freely, you know. And these are the things that she does with absolutely everybody she's connected to. And so you know, one question I want to ask is, are you the friend that you think you are? It was made clear to me today that I am not the friend that I thought I was. I thought I was a much better friend to her than she was to me. And that may well be true or it may not be true. But even in the type of friend that I believed I was falling short by her standards because I was not bowing down to her feelings throughout every interaction in our relationship. And she has certainly, I mean, she read me the Riot Act and then told me how good of a friend she is to me and how she's always supported me and how she's always done this. But yet and still, she hasn't found it in herself to actually have an honest conversation with me in at least 12 years, if not the whole 20. But yet she's claiming that she's been supportive and she's been there for me. Now, if you can't have an honest conversation with me about how you feel about me or about how you feel about my work, or how you feel about how I see us as interacting females, that's not being a good friend. But she thinks she's been the best thing coming, which is interesting and curious to me. People are interesting. People are interesting. So I would just give you a little bit of background about me. My mom taught me years ago, many years ago, we're going to say 30 or 40 years ago, never to hate anybody for anybody else. And I learned that lesson the hard way because I wanted her to hate somebody for me. And she didn't. She didn't. And so I don't hate people for other people. I don't not talk to people because somebody isn't talking to them. Your relationship with X, Y, and Z is your relationship with X, Y, and Z. My relationship with them is my business. And I stand by that. And that doesn't mean that I need to be any type of, you know, special way all up in their face or something like that. But if I had no beef with them, why would I suddenly act as if I have a beef with them? It's disingenuous, it's immature, and it's not the life that I lead. And so I will give you an example. I was raped by 2 family members, and I will tell you absolutely nobody in my family stood up with me. So, you know, I'm literally in a family of people who are supporting the rapist over the child, and I was a child at the time. And I have grown up standing alone with no one standing next to me. So somebody who's just mad at their ex because they're not getting the money that they want to get does not get to tell me that I need to be angry at that person because they're angry at that person. I literally had no support for actual harm, physical, sexual harm, and violence against me. And you want me to hate somebody for something as petty as a check? I don't have it in me. It's not my fight. I have my own fights. And I'm not going to take on your anxiety, your anger, your bitterness, your hatred, all of that. I'm not taking that on to force it towards somebody else. I don't have it in me for the people that deserve it from me. So if I'm up here forgiving my trespassers, if I'm up here forgiving my violators, my rapists, and all this other stuff, why in the hell do you think that I'm going to actively hate your people because you hate them? That's not my fight, and I'm not going to accept it as my fight. And you can say all you want, you can put in all the pretty words that you want. Well, if you want to be around me, if you want to be around my kids, you're grown, but I'm not going to roll in that. My circle's not going to roll like that. Well, chick, count me out. I don't need to be in a circle that's full of hate. I don't need to be in a circle that's full of, the lack of control. And I wanted to speak on, control, because all of this boils down to somebody who is trying to control everything in her life and has no control over anything. And she's controlling or manipulative to the point that she suffocates people in relationships, and people are scattering all over the place. And I've tried to hold on, because I try to be a light to people. I try to be a breath of fresh air. I try to share my joy where I go. But some people just suck the joy out of you. And I will tell you that as far as toxic relationships go, she is the most toxic relationship I have ever actively held on to. And I am so ready, beyond ready, to just stop holding on. I think I stopped holding on a couple years ago. And it's sort of metered and petered and done what it's doing. And so if she's done, you said nothing but a word. What do I have to, reach out for? I have nothing to reach out for. You've never supported me in anything. Giving me lip service is not support. She's like, oh, I've cheered you on. I've done this, I've done that. But yet you're asking me to destroy my work. You support my work, but you want me to throw it away. Okay? You support my work, but you are holding a grudge against what I actually write and what I portray. It's all my work. So how can you support it? You haven't been supportive, and that's fine. But don't act like you've been supportive when you've actually hated everything that I've done. And it comes out 12 years later. Because it represented you in your true light, and you couldn't stand to see your light. Whether it's tinted, shaded, or whatever it is, you couldn't stand to see your light. You couldn't stand to see what I see, whether or not, it's pain, anger, bitterness, whatever the case may be. It's who you are. This is the person that you're maintaining. So if you can't stand to see yourself in the mirror, that's not my issue. It's not my issue. I'm not going to make it my issue. So I just want to say, as you think about your relationships, as you think about your friendships and your family relationships, your work interactions, your casual interactions, whatever, think about, one, the person you are trying to be, the person you are, versus the person you want to be, versus the person they think you are and the person they see, right? And people will treat you how they see you. And so as much as this particular friend has, will say she supported me all these years, she treated me as if she didn't. And I saw that, I felt that, and that's what I was withdrawing from. And I will also tell you that I debated long and hard about putting her pictures in my book, simply because I knew on some level, no matter what I did, there was going to be an issue. I knew that, no matter what I did. And one of these photos, she literally signed off on. And she signed off on it directly because it was in 2 art gallery shows in New York City. And it wasn't until the second art gallery show exhibited the photo that she signed off on it for the book project. So I didn't even point that out to her. Like, we literally had a conversation about one of those pictures, and now you're saying you hate all of them. So at this point, I'm like, I knew no matter what I did, there was going to be an issue. She's going to try and control something. And this is what she's doing. She's being herself. I understand it. That's why I'm not mad. A little bit hurt because she attacked my work, but whatever. I worked hard on this book. Y'all all know that. But it is what it is. She is who she is. I am who I am. And as she said, I'm a grown-ass woman. And that's my motto for life now. I'm a grown-ass woman. I don't have to do what you want me to do. But I will honor your wishes. I will remove you from my project. And even though I repeatedly told her I was already over asking her ex for help before he even called, she's still making him a sticking point for this argument. Why is he a sticking point if I'm telling you I'm good? Because she didn't want me ever talking to him at all. Okay, sure. But yet, the godson is living with them. It just makes no sense. You're connected to this man for life, and this is how you want to live with it. That's on you. That's not my stripe. So anyway, that's my rant for right now. People attempting to control and manipulate you through your relationship and through the control they have over their children or their significant others or ex-significant others, and how they try to basically browbeat people into doing what they want to do through those relationships. And so now, I'm just sort of flabbergasted over this whole thing, because that she can boil down a 20-year relationship to something that happened within 2 things that happened within the last week, which is literally communication with people that she had deep relationships with, and something that happened 12 years ago and just judge the whole relationship on that sort of stuns me. But like I said, I have my own beefs. I won't go into those. But, you know, obviously we all have our own complaints and our own beefs. But I'm fine with being judged, having a final judgment like this, because I'm done working on stuff that don't work for me. And that's where it's at. So be blessed as you go. Thanks for listening. I wish you nothing but the best of joy and happiness. And I'm so glad this happened today, because I was supposed to, she had invited me to stay with her for a week until I go to St. Louis to visit my grandmother. And now I know I'm not going to even bother staying with her. I'm just going to go to a hotel. God is good all the time. So be blessed as you go. Thanks.